But we believe in working for professional academies in Holland and gaining experience in different countries and seeing what is happening there as well. So you can ask questions or share experiences if you like. I've always told players, but also my own kids, and my youngest one is 8, I said, there is no bad questions. Until recently he asked me, he said, Dad, can I? Yeah, of course. I said, why does the guinea pig not have to go to school? Because he didn't want to go to school for the day. So the guinea pig doesn't have to go to school. Why do I have to go to school? I said, well, son, I said, geez, what do I do with this one? So I kind of said, well, the guinea pig really doesn't serve any purpose than just being there. He's in his little cage and you give him water and feed him a little bit, but there's not a true meaning of the animal being there. But I said, you as an individual, you have an opportunity to grow, to develop, to make a difference. And I said, we'd like to give you that opportunity. And in Holland, similar to the US, children have an opportunity to go to school. Right? We have a program in Peru. 30% of the kids between 6 and 12, they work on the land. Vegetables, fruits. They are not given an opportunity to go to school. And for us, that is a foreign concept, but it is a reality. It is a reality over there. So, any question, hopefully we can answer it. If it is relating more to club management, then Roel has most experience with that. If it's in relation to the physicality of an athlete and development, then Ronaldo is a specialist in there, and anything else I will hopefully be able to pick up. So one thing I want to share is the traditional model where there is a trainer-coach and there is players, and the trainer-coach is trying to influence, try to change the football behavior of children. But as we know, every child is different. Some children are playing for social reasons, some are very competitive, and some are there for skill development, and some it's a mix, right? And so every person has different needs. So the future model in European programs is looking like this, where the player is central. And the player will have team training, the player will have small group training, and this player will have an individual development path, which is very different for every person. Also in there, what you try to activate is that the player has access to a trainer coach. He or she has access to a speed and coordination specialist, has access to a technical trainer, a physician, a physical therapist, an academic counselor, a youth coordinator, a director of coaching. So there's a whole palette of people being available around every player. And the only thing we have to do is have a brief introduction to children, that there will be a pathway for development, and then in these age group, basically when they go to high school, that we are trying to activate it here, that they have an understanding that parents, clubs, trainer coaches are facilitating their needs. But it's up to them how far they want to stretch it. It's their personal responsibility how deep they want to go into the process. So, having said that, 8 to 12, and I start with 8 and not with 5 or 6. 8 to 12, we kind of call it the golden age of development. Kids cognitively are able to process information rapidly and apply it to the field. but the parents are heavily involved because the parents sign them up for an activity like soccer. The parents bring him to the premises. They take care of the child. The parents here are crucial in those age groups. Then between 13 and 16, the children are developing their little characters. And they're all different. They all also are trying to figure out and say, okay, my parents really have supported me here, but I'm not sure if I really want to continue, or do I just want to play for fun? Or when high school comes around, there's other activities as well that they can participate in. Plus, they'll get into puberty. There's psychological changes, there's physical changes between 13 and 16. And sometimes what we see, if you increase the load there, so okay, now we're going to train 4 times in a week, we extend the tournament schedule, and kids kind of back off and say, I just don't want that anymore. And they can verbally express that. And then you get a little friction at times with the parents, because the parents, you know, they started this whole process and they say, okay, we want to build towards a certain future. And the kids here sometimes want to take a different route. Okay? So Pete, for example, is heavily involved now with his little 11-year-old. But the question is, does his son really want that as well in the next couple of years? You don't know, because kids may get exposed to other activities that they really enjoy. Yeah, but that might be a little bit difficult to get an understanding. Now, what happens as well in modern academies, that between 13 and 16, they make 4 biological groups. So they're looking at children and say, okay, which children are not in the puberty phase yet, which children are entering the puberty phase, which ones are at the end of the puberty phase, and which ones are coming out. So they may have small group training in their biological group. So not looking at their age, but they're just looking at, okay, where are you biologically? And then what happens on the trainer-coach side is that they are going to connect with each other and truly talk about these children and their development and their future path. The training here on the physical side, and maybe you can say something about that, is then also completely different. Because if you're not in the puberty, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're not in the puberty phase yet, you can train all day long. You can do sprints, you can do 1 against 1, you can do 2 against 2. Your body will recover rapidly, yeah, and the injury patterns are non-existent. But the moment you get into the puberty phase, yeah, the first thing that is going to change is the size of your hands and the size of your feet. So those are indicators. Then it's the length of your arms and the length of your legs. And you can see it, they need jeans. The jeans don't fit anymore. The third phase is the upper body, and the final phase is that the shoulders are getting a little bit broader. So there's 4 biological, yes, there's 4 biological groups that you can kind of identify. The moment the legs are growing, the bone structure is growing faster than the muscle tissue and the tendons, which means that everything is tight. If it's tight and you do explosive training, you're subject to injuries. Yeah? But the effect as well, that if you are tight, that you can't, you know, they look like zombies when they go on the field, especially on the boys side. They can't move properly anymore. The mind is fresh, but the body cannot follow. Then if you stress them into, if you add training sessions, if you add the tournament menu, if you stretch the length of the training, if you do explosive training, injuries. So here in the United States, 40% of the kids quit playing soccer. They don't like it anymore because they're being pushed. Yeah, and also in high school, you know, they're encouraged to play soccer. So here it is very, very delicate what is going to happen. Here they need the parents to be more like a mentor. Now the capacity that I don't have, and in general that men don't have, and I'll give you an example, is that if kids are coming home from school, you know, we all have an opinion, and we as men are a little bit more opinionated at times than the mothers or women. So what I wanted to say is that we should be listening here to the child and not giving advice. I'm not saying, no, you should do this or you should do that. Just listen. Try to listen and see and ask. But, you know, how was school? Well, but then don't give up. Say, well, you know, if you're ready, I'd like to have a conversation with you. If you have time, because they're all busy, of course, as well. So you really try to connect and be more like a mentor for the children. In this phase, 17 to 19, yeah, when they are coming out of their physicality and the bodies are not fully grown yet, but at least less subject to injuries, yeah, they need to decide what they want to do. Yeah. They can step up to the plate and say, yes, I want to become a soccer player. I'll do everything possible in that. The mistake that we sometimes make is that we, as parents, we try to push them into that situation. But you gotta let free. You gotta give them an opportunity to figure it out on their own. When we are training, also this week, we usually don't stop the play. So they are training. Yeah, and if we stop it, kids get angry. Yeah, so we let them go, but say, hey, next time, a little quicker. Julius, inside, come on. So we give them some initial feedback on their performance, and with multiple repetitions, yeah, it will come into their system like we are driving a car. Yeah, we don't have to think about the mirrors, the chair. We know that there's traffic coming, we know that there's certain rules, and it kind of goes by itself. And that's the same, it should be the same with the repetition of soccer training and soccer skills. At some point, the ball is glued to their foot, they can look over the ball, look at the spaces that are available, and all of a sudden they start playing at the level that is a little bit anticipated. So along those same lines, the way we kind of educate is like, how do you learn a language? If you're born in China, yeah, at some point you speak Chinese. If you're born in Holland, you speak Dutch. If you're born in the US, you speak English. But it kind of goes by itself. You know, nobody's telling these kids. And the moment they go to school, they learn about the alphabet, they learn about small words, they learn how to connect the words into a sentence, and then they can read a small cartoon, and later on they can read a book. It's a long process. And as parents, we take the time for that. There's no pressure. And in soccer as well, it is a 10-year path
before they have an understanding of what is happening on the field. So you can't really judge them until they're 17, 18, 19. We sometimes have conversations and say, okay, soccer starts at 11 against 11. Everything else is preparatory to the game. It's not real soccer. It looks like soccer, but it's in a smaller format. But soccer, which is a spatial game, and you need time and you need space. And within that, you try to make the decisions that are out. Any questions? Anything? Yeah. Good.
Going back to that model, the first one that you touched on.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty new in soccer, but I heard about the pay-to-play system.
Yeah.
And my understanding is in Europe, this has somewhat different.
It's different.
Yeah. So can you touch on that?
Yeah. No, in Holland and in Germany and in Belgium, you have grassroots soccer clubs. And the grassroots soccer clubs, it's a pay-to-play model. But soccer, this is the only country in the world where it's not a low-income sport. Yeah. So my son is 8. He's playing for the largest club in Amsterdam. It's also the most expensive club in Amsterdam, and he's paying $400 US for 11 months of soccer. That's 2 sessions a week, tournaments, game on Saturday, and that's the most expensive. But most clubs are around 200, 250 US for a full season. It's a low-income sport, which is fantastic because now you get all layers of society involved. Now, if you have talent, and talent always is subjective. What is a talent? Well, we can speak about that later, maybe. If you are talented, you have an opportunity to become part of a professional academy. And when you are being picked, they handpick them. In Ajax, they handpick them from age 7. If you are handpicked, then everything is paid for. So they have training, they have tournaments in Holland, but also in Belgium, in Italy, in Spain. Everything is taken care of. They get an outfit, 3 warm-up suits, sandals, cleats, running shoes, bag, rain gear. Everything is taken care of. We feed them at the club. There's academic counselors taking care of their homework assignments. So basically, when you are in that setting, the kids are being trained, they're being fed, homework is done, and they come home and they've been showered. So that's not bad for a family, but it is a huge time commitment for the children, and there is expectations. And that's why parent education is so important, because parents need to have an understanding what happens if you are part of. But the model here in the US is that the better you get, the more time you have to invest. That's okay, but also the more you have to pay, and that's not right. And so there should be a reward for doing well. And in this country, if you are doing well, you have to put up more money. So somebody has to come up with a solution for that.
Who's paying in the other model? Where's the money coming from?
The money is coming from the professional team. Is generating money through ticket sales. Is generating money through TV rights, sponsoring, etc. So at Ajax, where they have about they've got 200 kids in the academy, roughly, hit or miss. The investment is 10 million euro per year in the academy model, but that includes taking care of the fields. They have like, there's like 8 fields, taking care of all the personnel, taking care of everything that is in there. So that's an investment from the club. And if these kids develop, they present a value for the organization. And Ajax is one of the few clubs in Europe that every year, I would say, is selling around 30 million euros in players, and we invest 10. So, out of a business perspective, it's a pretty good setup. But here, the Portland Timbers also have an academy, and that is also being financed, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
they do have to purchase their own equipment,
Okay.
but the rest
But
is
the training,
Training,
and everything
travel.
is being so
Yeah.
there is
A
a
li-
development that they are getting towards a similar setup with the MLS franchise. So there is a little bit of positive news in there. Yeah? Does that answer
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have solution.
No, but there should be a general discussion about
Yeah, there
how
is.
can that be fixed, because it's on one way it doesn't seem that it is.
Right, and you're right that you are, as you move up the ladder, it seems like you're being penalized for.
Yeah. See, and in Holland, if, for example, let's put it this way. Let's say the Washington Timbers is developing a prospect. That person will go to the Portland Timbers and will surface in the first team. Then 10,000 euro is going directly back into the youth program. That's a federation rule. If that player develops at the Timbers and is being transferred to another club, then a percentage of that transfer is going back into the Washington Timbers. That's all set in stone, based upon the number of years the player was in the academy model. So it benefits financially, it benefits the grassroots clubs to move these kids into other environments, because they get money back to fund their program. And that also in the US is not in place. Yeah? So for example, if the Portland Timbers want to take 4 kids 15 years of age from the Washington Timbers, they basically can do that, and then that remaining group is going to be destroyed. Because if you take 4 out to a core of the team, yeah, but if there was compensation involved, they probably look a little bit more careful. Which ones are really going to have a chance? And then they may pick only 2. And 2 is okay, because then 2 other flowers will rise to the occasion. But if you take 4, it may destroy an age group, and people may look and go other places. So, also in Holland, which probably is a little bit different, if parents, every team in the grassroots club, when they start playing 11 against 11, there's 2 parents unhappy and there's 2 players unhappy because of playing time, the position, don't like the trainer coach or don't like the team manager. There's always 2 people unhappy. But they cannot change clubs. You can only change clubs at the end of the season. So they follow the identity and the culture of the club, Yeah. And be quiet. Yeah. Or yeah, they stop. But the kid cannot play somewhere else. You know, so the parents now are, you know, the staff is there to develop these kids and make sure that they have a wonderful time. And everybody needs to learn about different positions. Everybody needs to be challenged in a certain way. Usually the kids are okay, but there's always one or two parents that are trying to make a little fuss about something. And that you kind of have to manage. And a lot of times the team manager is the one who's fixing the problem, and not the trainer coach. If it's, you know, so it's a filtering system. So because otherwise the trainer coach needs to deal with the kids, the team manager deals with the parents. But you need to get an understanding. What are the expectations? What can you expect from the trainer staff? So you kind of have an outline for that, and then you discuss that at the beginning of the season, and then people can agree or they can disagree, but still it is a club program. If you don't like the club program, then maybe you should go somewhere else, regardless of the talent of the child. So you can be kind of strict on that. So the club that my son is in, as an 8-year-old, you can only become a member if 2 independent parents who are already in the program write a letter of recommendation. So you cannot sign up. You can only sign up if 2 existing parents are supporting that I take my son into that program. Yeah? So they filter the parents that could be trouble. You just don't want them.